they didn't have an agent because they got their quote direct from online. Mm-hmm. And so then you get put in this position of, I don't know who to call. I don't know who's going to help me. And then come to find out the damages are $160,000.
Welcome back to the Modern Agent Podcast. My name is Logan Ricchetti with Modern Realty. This podcast is a combination of thoughts and opinions on the real estate market in Midland, Michigan with our local real estate agents from Modern Realty. Our mission is to create informed and confident buyer and seller clients, so tune in to learn more about Midland's real estate market.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Modern Agent Podcast. My name is Emilee, and today I have with me Micah Schieber from Arbury Insurance. He is going to share with us today kind of a peek into the world of insurance. So Micah, why don't you tell us first off a little bit about yourself, how you got involved with insurance, and some stuff about your company.
Love it. Absolutely. Thanks for having me on today. This is very exciting. Just a little bit about me. Born and raised here in Midland. Quiet town, Arbury Insurance has been in Midland for 150 years. So there's a lot of history with Arbury in Midland. How I got into insurance, I'm not sure how many people actually get out of school and go, oh, I'm going to go sell insurance. It was not my first idea of a job.
A lot of career paths tend to be windy and curvy. I mean, mine was too. This real estate was not. I didn't graduate. Well, I kind of did, but initially did not go into real estate. But it is always kind of like a roundabout. But I think that's kind of the best way too.
Right.
Yeah.
Falling into it usually helps you fit in a little bit more into the job. I was building houses at the time, and I just kind of thought to myself, this really is not what I meant to do. I loved it. I loved the trades all through high school. And a family friend of ours was owner at Arbury Insurance. And through my father-in-law, he said, hey, they're looking for an insurance agent. Have you ever thought about it? No, I never thought about it.
But I'll start thinking now a little bit.
Right, might as well. And I went in and I sat down and talked with Matt Gronzo. And just kind of got an idea of what does this look like. And ever since then, I applied, I got the job. It's a blast. It is a lot of fun. It's definitely an area I never truly expected to find myself in because insurance is really a mixed bag. Some people who have been in it say it's terrible, and others say it's the most fun I've ever had in a job.
Yeah.
And so truly, I didn't go out seeking insurance. It just kind of found me. And now after 2.5 years, I've never been happier.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, and it's funny that you say it that way because that's really how I got involved with real estate. You put it perfectly. Like I didn't go searching for it. It found me. And I think that when that happens, it's really special. And I know you and I have bonded a lot about when you started working insurance. The thing is, Mike and I have known each other for actually quite a long time. So I've had the pleasure of having kind of a front row seat to watching your career journey. And when you started working in insurance was the first time I really heard you. I could tell how passionate you felt about everything that at the time you were learning and now everything that you're doing. And so that's why you were my first call when I decided that looking at 2025, who do I want to bring on the podcast? I always want to have it be entertaining, but also educational for myself and for people watching. And I realized, I'm like, Micah loves what he does. He's talked to me a lot about it. But I think a lot of people don't really understand insurance. I know I don't. We all have insurance. We all hate paying for it. And so we should probably understand it more in depth. But I feel like I have never had somebody sit down with me and walk me through insurance. Like, what are my different options and really educating on it all together. And I know just a few kind of conversations we've had, even about like our policies, things like that. I've learned so much. And I love that because that's how I approach real estate with people is there's so many people that go through multiple transactions in their life, but nobody's ever sat down and educated them and taught them from start to finish what it all looks like. And when I do that with people, it creates more confident and informed buyers and sellers. And I imagine it is very similar in insurance. Like I said, we all have to have it. All of us, most of us do in some form or other. And I would venture to say that most people don't even really understand what coverage they do have until something happens. So I was really excited when Micah said that he would love to join us on the podcast today. And he was really excited about it. And I started to put together like an outline. I'm like, hey, I'm going to send you an outline of some questions that I have. And it's a real short document because I realized I didn't even know what to ask. I don't know what I don't know.
Right.
So I told Micah, I said, have at it. Teach us what we don't know about insurance. Obviously, with being kind of more real estate-esque, I would like us to kind of start in the realm of home insurance. So I'm going to let you take the reins, and I am sitting here asking you, Micah, what do I need to know when I find a house and it goes under contract and I need to call for a quote on home insurance? Like, what are the questions I should be asking?
Absolutely. It's, there's so much to insurance, and you put it very well as having a good agent for buying a home, insurance. It can make the difference in how comfortable somebody is within a transaction. So with insurance, the part that I love about it is that I can now become a professional and really study this area that nobody has any idea of. You can look at a declarations page that shows all of your coverages, but nobody really knows what any of those mean.
Well, and you actually even said to me, you're like, yeah, send me your declaration pages. And I'm like, my what? How do I get those? Where are they? I don't know.
Right.
And this might be really exposing myself as not adulting very well, but I've talked to some other people and they're like, yeah, I don't know either. I don't know. So yeah.
It's, the declarations page it's the first page you get after purchasing insurance. And it shows how much you're paying for insurance, all of your lines of coverage. And it really helps break down the coverages. I mean, if we're talking about a home, it breaks down all of your home coverage, how much it would be to replace your home, any sheds, outbuildings, anything like that. But still, for a lot of people, it's just numbers. And I have said from the start, since I got into insurance and even purchasing a home, I wish it was something they taught in school, because everyone's going to adult and you're going to have to buy insurance. And, hopefully you can purchase a home. Well, walking through even purchasing a home is so stressful because it's a world that you have no idea. So if you have a great agent purchasing a home, it's the same thing with insurance, where I can walk you through, let me sit you down, go through all of your coverages. We can look at the home, we can look at the auto, and really figure out what is it that you do need, what is it that you don't need. Are you overpaying for certain things? And what is it that I can help you look out for to mitigate any sort of risk that may come with purchasing this home?
Right. Because you hear a lot of horror stories. I mean, when people typically talk about insurance or have stories about insurance, unfortunately, it's usually because something happened and that's when they found out that they weren't covered the way that they thought they were covered, or they just didn't know how to go about it. Their rates increased, this, that, and the other thing. You don't hear too many people be like, oh, I love insurance and I love paying insurance. You hear people talk about how much they love their agent, but it's because their agent approaches it the way you do. So what are some things that people need to consider when they call you and say, hey, we're purchasing this home, or we're looking at this home, or we're wanting to buy a home? What are some things that they need to consider about the home in terms of insurance?
So there's a lot of things, and most of the time when you're purchasing a new home, you're already looking for certain things up front. What's the age of the roof? Any electrical updates? How old is your electrical box down in the basement? And those certain things can truly change the price of your policy. Your premium at the end of the day, if you come and tell me, hey, there's a brand new roof on this new house I'm purchasing and it was replaced 2 years ago, well, you're going to get a discount on your policy because of that.
Okay.
And in Midland, especially since 2020, there's been a lot of hail claims on homes, which, again, that is why you have homeowners insurance. But it's hard when you go to replace your roof and come to find out your roof at the time was 18 years old and the company you have your homeowners insurance with is only willing to replace 20% of it because of the age. And so age of roof is huge. Plumbing is another big thing. When I am sitting down with a client and I've got my quote sheet out and I'm going through everything that I need to know to quote you properly, I'm going to ask, do you have a fence, fenced in yard? Do you have any outbuildings like a nice shed or, certain things like that? Do you have a pool? What's the age of your roof? What's the age of your electrical, plumbing, and your furnace? And those are all the kind of things most people are going to look at when they go to purchase a home because you don't want to get into a home and then a month later your furnace goes out.
Right.
Especially in Michigan.
So when you mentioned like plumbing and all those things, those are things that an inspector, when we have the home inspected, that's they shed a lot of light on all of that. So is that where you get that information from? Like how can somebody, when you ask them like, what about the plumbing? Are you just looking for copper versus PVC? Do you actually look at inspection reports? Like how is all of that kind of the inner guts of a house determined in that quote?
Inspection reports are very important. If I can get my hands on them, I request it. A lot of times people don't. I mean, if they're purchasing a home without inspection, I can't get that.
Right.
Now, I am hoping that since you chose this house to purchase, you have an idea of what some of these things look at because, I mean, you also want to be an informed home buyer, which helps us, which helps me to quote you properly on your home. And, we're insurance agents kind of do different things when quoting a home. If you tell me, hey, last year we went and replaced all the outlets and gotten a new electrical box. To me, that's new electrical, right? Not many people are going to go through their home and restring all of your electrical lines because that's going to run you an easy $50,000. But we want to look and see that, there's been regular maintenance on the home. There has been updates done to the home. If your home was built in the 50s and come to find out they had old copper lines that were never replaced, and then heaven forbid they freeze and, or they crack or erode just due to age, it makes the claims process much more lengthy.
Gotcha.
So we want to be as accurate as possible.
So is that even including, is what it's sounding like, is that even after you purchase the home, and I mean, because I have clients all the time that they purchase knowing that a roof is older, knowing that it's going to need a new HVAC system, things like that. Once they've completed those things, should they call their insurance agent and have that?
Always.
See, now I'm learning so much. I mean, we purchased a home, we had replaced the furnace, the AC, and never called. Just because this is what I was saying, like you just don't know. I feel like people just don't know what they don't know. I knew that in the beginning when we purchased the home, we were asked things that we found out in the inspection. But after that, I mean, and maybe I was the only one who didn't know that. I hope I wasn't, but it shows us and, the carriers as well that you are mitigating risk at all cost. Gotcha.
So
that makes sense.
If you've got a 30-year-old furnace, well, that's about the end of most furnace lifespans. And so the first thing that goes through our head is you're going to be gone some weekend during the wintertime, not home, and your furnace is going to shut off.
Gotcha.
Everything's going to freeze. Your plumbing's going to burst. And then you're looking at almost a total loss because the moment that goes out and you can't catch it in time, you've got water damage everywhere. And you also risk old wiring, sparking, burning the house down. You see these kind of losses all the time.
Right.
And they've become more and more popular recently since 2020. Losses just across the country, but also in the state of Michigan, have gone through the roof. And that's why everyone is seeing an increase on their policies, sometimes up to 20% rate increases. It's difficult because, you have to have empathy with your clients because it is expensive. Insurance is expensive, and you're required to pay it. But you also, as an insurance agent, I pay the same rates everybody else does.
Right.
I don't get a break. I don't get any special discounts for being an agent, even though I sell their insurance. I still pay just as much as you do. My rate increases are the exact same.
You're in the same boat as everybody else.
Same exact boat. And, anytime you get any work done on your home, it could be new flooring, it could be new drywall, new plumbing, anything, call your agent and let them know. Because that's also going to affect your dwelling coverage for how much, if you had a total loss, what we need to replace it for.
Right.
Because if you had carpet, let's say 60-year-old shag carpet, and then you go ahead and replace that with hardwood flooring,
that's a big price difference.
Big price difference. And we need to know that so that we know, hey, if we're going to rebuild this home, we need to rebuild it and make them 100%.
So this actually leads really nicely into a question that I had thought of, is the difference between like replacement costs versus actual cash value. And I know that that's even a question that I've personally had is, you talk about replacement costs, if something happened, you had total loss, how much would it cost? How is all of that determined? Like how, what's the difference between those two? How is it determined how much gets, that the insurance company pays to replace on your home?
Right. So, it's different with every carrier. If I'm going to quote you with my top 5 carriers, each quoting system that they have specifically, they all have their own different calculators. Let's just say if I'm writing insurance with Cincinnati Insurance and I'm going through and they're going to ask me everything I asked you, age of the home, all that kind of stuff, they're going to be able to look at the market value, and then they're going to see what's the average rates right now for just rebuilding, what's lumber cost, and right now everything's really expensive.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, to build a 1,500 square foot cobblestone home right now might cost you $600,000, $700,000 for just a ranch, where back in 2017 it might have cost you $350,000. And so a lot of that information is taken into factor. But there are other carriers where it's just going to look at what was it last sold for, and what the age is and the age of the roof, and then they'll give you a number. So the big difference is the carrier.
Okay.
And so, when I write a lot of my business with Cincinnati Insurance because their rating system is fantastic, and their claims department is incredible. And that's what I care about a lot. Because if a client comes to me and says, my house is burning down, if I get a call at midnight and they say, hey, my house is burning down, I'm going to have them just handle the situation now. I'll collect all the information, and then we'll get the claims process rolling. And how the carrier works with you is a huge game changer. One thing that's become really popular recently, which is, it's bound to happen, but it's the 15-minute quotes you can get online.
Well, and we run into that all the time with certain commercials that people see with instant pre-approvals. Yeah. And there is a lot of caveats to that. And when I have clients come to me and say, well, we just, instead of calling a lender and having to go through we just went and, click instant pre-approval. And what people don't realize, and I've explained to clients, is that it's not the same thing. You can't make something that important just appear. Like if you really want to be doing things the right way, be doing things well and properly, and making sure that your best interests are being protected, it is going to take some time.
Right.
So when you say that, I immediately am like, oh, I've been there. And those people that are like, but this was so quick, and they really insist on using it, you pay for it in the back end. Like you really do. You're going to regret it eventually.
Right. And I mean, it may seem really one-sided, but it is so important to have an agent, somebody you can call. And, I look at my role in insurance as an agent kind of as my own ministry, because oftentimes when I'm getting a call from a client, it is quite possibly one of the worst days of their life.
It means something bad happened.
Right. And, I can get the casual phone calls from clients, and I love that. I love it.
Like
when,
the hey, we replaced our furnace phone call.
Right.
Yeah, great, congrats.
But when you receive a phone call at like 9:00 at night, your heart sinks. And I'm the first person they're gonna call. And so I view it as my ministry, because it allows me to help calm the situation. Nothing I can do right now is going to change what has happened. But it allows me to bring some sort of calmness and I've got you to the situation.
Well, and when a lot of, things that we have happened in our life, tragic things, it's not a lot of people who've walked through things like that. They know it's not just that singular event. It's it's everything that comes after it as well. And that is where, you're able to step in and help that. You can't stop their house from burning down or their house from flooding, but you have the ability to handle everything, a lot of things that come after that, and try to help mitigate a lot of that. And I've experienced that too in real estate when things happen. Like, not everybody's selling a house because they're pregnant again and they're needing another bedroom. Like, that's really fun and exciting. But there's also a lot of times where something tragic has happened. Yep. This isn't everybody's first choice of their situation. And I'm very similar. And that is where I've gotten, that's where I find a lot of, I feel very good about what I'm doing and how I'm helping people, because I am also very passionate about helping people navigate a situation that they're maybe not necessarily wanting to be in, because I feel like that's really, truly being able to give back to people and sow some good in a really tough world and in some tough industries where people are being thrown into it, whether they want to or not.
Absolutely.
And we have the ability to, we don't have full control over everything, but at least they feel like there's somebody on their team going through this with them and going to advocate for them through whatever they're going through.
Yeah. And, before I was building homes, I was a car salesman, and I got into car sales because I love cars. I love cars. I always have. And I thought, hey, this is going to be great. I can tell everyone everything they're going to need to know about these cars. Oftentimes it was just too much information because a lot of people don't care what the valve timing is, I know we've called you before and been like, hey, we're thinking about getting a new car. And you give us the full rundown. I'm like, I don't know what that is, but if Micah says, okay, great, that sounds good. Right. And because
I know and I trust that you've done your research. Like, you know a lot about this.
And it helps. It helps in the career of being an insurance agent, because I've sold cars and I know cars, and I've built houses. And so
that's a very good point.
I can specialize in insurance, but also I have a lot of history with both homes and autos.
Never thought about
And so
that.
it gives me a lot of foresight into what are you buying, and is there any way I can be a professional in my own manner to help you navigate this next journey. And back to, the 15-minute online quotes. I'll give a very short description that happened 2 weeks ago. We have a friend who's not even a client, but I kind of view my time as My time is free, right? Even if I don't have your insurance, call me and ask questions. If I'm the first contact you've got and have questions and your agent isn't answering, I can walk you through the whole thing. I'm not going to charge you anything. Like, that's not what I'm in this position for. But we had a good friend downstate who woke up one morning to 6 inches of sewage across their entire home.
Oh, oof.
Just woke up one morning and the house was filled. Just a one-level ranch, no basement, and so their entire main story was destroyed.
Right. That's not just like setting out some fans and letting things air
No.
out. That's a much bigger process.
Right. And they didn't have an agent because they got their quote direct from online. And so then you get put in this position of, I don't know who to call. I don't know who's going to help me. And then come to find out the damages are $160,000. Am I covered for this kind of peril? Am I going to have anyone here in time? I mean, there's sewage sitting in the home.
What do we do now?
What do we do now? Because you can't just let it sit in there. And then you have to think about, depending on what it damaged, it could be a total loss, and you might have to rebuild.
Well, and even where are you going to go? Like
Right.
where, like literally, I feel like my call to you would be like, what do I do next? And you don't
Right.
want to be making that phone call and having to go through 1,000 phone menus of press 1, press 2, press 3.
Yeah.
You want to be able to pick up the phone.
You want a human, not an automated voice.
Right, because it's like, or outside of business, it's outside of business hours, things like that. And
right.
I've explained that too with lenders and with other things that pertaining to real estate is that when it's a Saturday and we want to make an offer or something has changed in the transaction and we need to talk to your lender right now, we want to make sure that we know who we're calling
Right,
and
right.
who's going to help us. That's the exact conversation I've had with people is that, you can use whoever you want. I have people I recommend, but you can use who you want, who you're comfortable with. But we want to make sure that you know who you're calling.
Right.
Because if something happens, you want to be able to get in touch with somebody.
Absolutely. And just the same as, selling homes, insurance this is all a relationship business. You do business with people you like, know, and trust. And I could tell all of my clients, hey, just call the office and ask for your CSR. They'll get it handled, just kind of have them go deal with somebody else. But I love that my clients call me. It doesn't matter if I'm on vacation or, just winding down for the night. Call me because my phone is always on.
Yep.
And it brings stress sometimes, but my number one goal is to take care of my clients to the best of my ability.
Well, and that sounds like that's something that's pretty, unique to you and also your company. And maybe kind of explain that a little bit more because you had called, we were having a phone conversation sometime last year, and there was some really cool changes that were happening in your office that you were really excited about. And it sounded like it was things that were going to be able to help you help your clients more. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what that change was and then what that meant for your clients? Because I know you were kind of talking to me of like, hey, this is what's coming down the pipeline. And you were really good at explaining this is how it's going to affect you. This is why it's a benefit to you. This is why I'm really excited about it.
Absolutely. So last year in March, we ended up partnering with Hub International. And Midland is a very tight-knit, very close community. And
you guys have been around for so long too.
Right. We've been around for 150 years. And so anything that happens with the Arbury name gets out very quickly.
Right.
And what we had found is that as the price of everything had started to go up, it was harder and harder to service our clients the best because insurance carriers were feeling it the same, which means we started to get limited options on what we could do to help. And so we had been searching for probably about 6 months and meeting with some of these larger brokerages. And we went through a lot of meetings to figure out how can Arbury still be Arbury, but gain access to more of the market because we have to have ways to service our clients. We were growing very, very quickly, and we ended up falling in with Hub International, and Hub International is the single largest privately owned brokerage in the world. So we're in Canada and North America, but we can sell all across the world. It has been a huge blessing because we had gotten to the point, just like a lot of smaller agencies, where we almost felt discouraged because we couldn't service our clients. There was just no possible way, as everything got so expensive and carriers' rates continued to skyrocket. It limits our markets to be able to help anyone. And having now access to Hub's huge list of carriers that we've never been able to deal with, or let alone that have ever seen the Michigan market, has been a massive blessing. There's always going to be growing pains. And, when word started getting around Midland, I think there was a lot of fear, obviously, because of the Arbury name.
Well, and I think because people don't really understand everything that you just said.
Right.
So they just know something's changing, but they don't understand what is changing, how it changes. What does it mean that you have access to more carriers in a bigger marketplace, and all, like, what does all of that mean? And that's where all of this whole conversation is rooted from, is that there's so much fear behind, I think, a lot of this because people just don't know.
Right. It's, as soon as you hear, hey, so-and-so is selling or partnering with, or go down the line, everyone thinks that they're just going away.
Right.
The people there are going away. So, within the next year, you are going to see the Arbury name change to Hub International. But the thing that people have to understand is that though the name may have changed, the same people who were at Arbury before are still there. The same way we operate will never change because we are dedicated to our clients before money, before anything else.
Well, it's why you guys did it in the first place, was to better service and uphold that standard
Exactly
that you are trying to operate at.
Right. And it gave us so many more options. And the moment you start limiting your options, it's hard to do business. It really is. It's hard to do business, and it's hard for even me to service my clients because your rates went up and I'm supposed to be able to shop you at all these different carriers. I don't have any carriers that are going to beat what you've got. It went up, but this is what I've got.
But everybody else did too.
Right.
Yeah.
And so this has just opened up a lot of opportunity for us. And like I said, there's a lot of growing pains. Anytime you change certain processes or how you operate, it's going to hurt a little bit.
We all have to learn new things sometimes. And sometimes that's easier than other times.
Sometimes, yes. Nobody likes change.
No,
especially a change on your premium that goes up 15, 20%. And it's been huge. And everything's kind of calming down now. We're just finalizing integration.
Yeah, it's kind of falling into the rhythm.
Right, getting this new rhythm back up and going. Again, like I said, we're the same people. Yeah. Nothing has changed. And we're just going to keep doing what we do. You call us awesome. If you need anything, we're here. That's why we've been around for so long.
That's awesome. So this was kind of something that when I was trying to think of some questions and content, what are some common mistakes that you see people make or common misconceptions? Like what is some like common pitfalls that people fall into that you wish people understood a little bit better or knew? Or maybe what's your favorite thing to teach people? Because I know I have some things that when somebody asks me a question, I'm almost kind of excited for it because like I love being able to teach on this because you see a light bulb go off. Yeah. So do you have some of those things?
I do. And, shockingly, most of them are with auto coverage because I think home coverages
Yeah, let's
are
dive
very
into auto because, it's just across the board. And a lot, then you start talking about bundling and all of that stuff. And it's very worth kind of dipping into that auto because I know more about homeowners than I do about auto, which is not a whole lot.
Right. Home insurance, I would challenge everybody to pull out your home insurance documents and look at your deck pages and just go down the list. Just start looking at your numbers and really figure out what you are covered for. And if you have an insurance agent, call them and ask questions if you don't know, because knowing your policy is the most important thing for you so that if anything happens, you're covered for that. It is something I want everybody to do is look at your home, your auto. If you have an umbrella, a lot of people don't even really know what their umbrella does.
I know I have one and I don't know what it does or what it means. I just know that and you've taught me so much, like as we kind of discovered personally, like that kind of stuff. Like I'm like, yeah, this is what it says on my docs, but I don't know what that means. And you've done so well of explaining that. So keep going.
Well, oftentimes when you get a new insurance policy or you're shopping anywhere, a lot of these companies will offer another 10% discount on your home and your auto if you throw in an umbrella. Standard $1 million umbrella, $500,000 umbrella. You get discounts. I like discounts. I like to save money because insurance is very expensive.
Right.
And I have to pay it.
Again, he also has to pay insurance. He understands.
I do. And I'm young, and so it's much more expensive. Yes, so count your blessings. It's okay. So, when it comes to an umbrella policy, everyone thinks, oh, it's just, I've got $500,000 or I've got $1 million worth of liability that I can pay $200 a year for. And that's just going to take care of everything.
If I get a bill for $800,000, it's going to be
it's going to
fall under that. Yeah.
Well, what people don't understand is, really the name describes the whole thing, is it's an umbrella. But you have to use your liability coverage first from whatever the claim is. So if you're in an auto accident and just so happens that you get hit and you end up veering off and hitting a pedestrian, let's just say, medical bills add up very, very quickly. And so you're going to start chewing through this liability on your auto policy. And I write standard $250,000, $500,000 split limit coverage for both your liability, and then you also have under and uninsured motorist liability. And a lot of people will kind of play with those numbers. I don't want the under and uninsured motorist coverage, so I'm just going to drop it as low as I can or just take it off. But your umbrella policy is only to cover liability, your liability. If someone gets hurt on your property or, like I said, an auto accident, and you run out of that liability coverage, you can be sued for everything you're worth.
Right.
And that umbrella policy is going to cover everything over the top of that. Okay. You hope you never have to use the umbrella, but a lot of people in certain instances do have to use it, and it has saved them a lot of money and a lot of headache, because if you get sued for the amount of someone's medical bills, you're not going to financially recover. So it just allows you to have just that extra blanket
umbrella of protection.
Right.
Rightly named.
So when it comes to PIP coverage on your auto, a lot of people do not know what the heck that is.
I was just going to say, I have seen it. I have seen PIP.
Right.
But what does PIP mean?
So PIP is your personal injury protection. And in the state of Michigan, you have options, right? You could just flat out deny PIP, or you can go all the way up to unlimited PIP coverage. And it does get expensive for let's just take me, for instance, right? I'm 24 and I drive a vehicle, and my age group is high risk. And so because I'm a high risk, I have to pay more for everything, even though I have a spotless record. And so for me to go unlimited PIP cost me about $480 a year. That's $480 of my premium just on one car.
Right. And you guys have 2 cars.
And
that's just for one.
Yeah. I mean, my wife is 25. I'm 24. There's no longer a thing of once you turn 25, your insurance premiums go down. That's not a thing anymore.
I was going to say, I did not see that because my husband does not have a spotless record. I do, but he does not. And I'm like, I thought that at a certain point we wouldn't be paying for, because I'd always heard that, especially males around a certain age were higher risk. My husband proved that to be accurate.
Yeah.
But then now we're 30 and it didn't change.
No, unfortunately. And that's how it used to be where, as soon as you turn 25, you got a pretty decent break on your insurance. But just with the amount of losses right now,
times have changed.
But let me give you the basic breakdown of your PIP coverage because a lot of people want to reduce that coverage on their auto policy because it's expensive.
It's expensive. And I feel like, and this kind of happens in real estate transactions as well, and especially like with lending and things like that, is we all want a good deal. You said it, we love discounts. We all want a good deal. We're paying a lot of money for this stuff, but you don't want to discount yourself and your protection.
Right.
I think it's more of like you want to discount your price, but you don't want to discount your protection because in the worst case scenario, you're going to wish that you had maybe made some different choices.
Absolutely.
And you are the guy to sit down and explain that to people of where are some areas that are maybe not high risk for us, where we can kind of, from what I'm assuming, kind of pad it here, but this is where we actually really would need to invest in protection.
Yeah, I tell everyone who comes in and sits down with me, whether you're a client or just someone who wants to shop around, I tell everyone I can find you a cheaper premium. I can drop that premium really, really far. But I'm not willing to do that if that means I am risking coverage. Because the moment I'm not comfortable putting you at a lesser coverage amount, I then take responsibility. Heaven forbid you say you want to save some money, so I drop you to $250,000 in PIP insurance, or you just say I don't want it. Unless you have a coordination of benefits from your work that shows me that their health insurance takes primary in case of an accident, I won't write it. I will not write people without PIP insurance just because they don't want it. I will let them go find another agent somewhere who is willing to take that risk.
Right.
But if you were to get into an accident and become paralyzed and you didn't have personal injury protection, you're paralyzed. Every single one of those medical bills is now on you. And so personal injury protection is phenomenal because of how Michigan offers it. We can go all the way up to unlimited. And when I was getting my license, my professor sat us all down and said, this is the number one most important thing on an auto policy. Because if you are in an accident and say you break your spine and you're paralyzed and you can just start going down on all the medical bills you're going to see.
Well, and thinking about all the scenarios that nobody wants to think about, but are sometimes become a reality for people.
Absolutely. And what PIP does is it not only takes care of those medical bills, and you're going to need surgery after surgery after surgery, and it could be for years. Well, any injury as a result of that accident, whether it's tomorrow or 10 or 15 years down the road, that is covered by your PIP due to an auto accident. Well, then let's think even further. If, say, you're paralyzed from this and you have to get a wheelchair, an accessible van, you have to have things
make
added
modifications to your home.
Modifications to your home. Your PIP insurance comes in and covers that. And so the second lowest limit from unlimited, and you drop down one bar, is $500,000. That $500,000 is going to go very, very fast. But that's why it's cheaper, because after that amount, the insurance company hands off. You don't get any more. And so if you just go unlimited and pay the extra amount, again, heaven forbid you have to use it. If you've got unlimited, it's whatever you need. And it's very, very important because it's the first thing people see in the itemized, premium. They're going to see PIP insurance unlimited, $450 a year. They're like, well, let's just cut that. It's the biggest chunk.
Well, and I think it's such a good point that you made of like, it's thinking down the road and it's thinking long term of, everything that is going to not just happen today, but happen tomorrow and the day after that and the day after that. And I think that's where you, as an insurance agent, give so much value to your clients, is because you're actually there to explain that. And because I know there's so many times, like even as we've been sitting here talking to them, I think yeah, I didn't think about that. Oh yeah, I didn't think about that either. Like I've never thought about it that way because I am not in insurance at all during my day. I mean, we pay our premium and hope that we never have to use insurance. And that's the boat that most people are in. But you are seeing it similar to myself with real estate. Like I see in one day, I'll see 3 or 4 different transactions and 3 or 4 completely different situations are happening. And those situations are unique to each person, but you kind of, you get a lot of foresight into what could happen, what are some results of this, situation's unique to somebody, but you've had a client that this has happened to before. You've seen results of good decisions and bad decisions and things like that. So Micah, we're going to kind of wrap up a little bit, but I mean, this has just been like, to me, a wealth of information. And if anything, I hope this benefits somebody else. But if anything, I know it's hugely benefited me and getting an education and kind of a crash course into insurance and how to view it a little bit differently. And I think that was really where my heart was with having you come on, is giving a professional a chance to change people's perspectives on something that we all deal with. And I mean, I get it. I'm in real estate. Like I get people that don't always react great when I say that I'm a realtor because they've had a bad experience. And I love being able to change people's perspectives on the home buying and selling process, on what I do for them as an agent. And I know that you are very passionate about that in your, in your category as well. But is there any other like tips or things like that you would like to kind of wrap up with? Like I said, anything that we might still not know? I mean, you've just been a huge wealth of information today.
It's, if I ran an entire insurance crash course, and we went over everything on the home policy, everything on the auto policy, it might take us 8 hours.
Well, and I imagine too, it's kind of different for every person because everybody lives in a different house. Everybody drives a different car. Every person is different. So I'm going to put it out there. If anybody is wanting to kind of have this stuff reviewed, how do they do that with you? Like if they're sitting there also thinking like, I don't know these things. I don't really know. Like what do they do? What's their next steps? So,
I mean, really, all you have to do if you're looking for insurance or just have questions and your agent's not getting back with you, you name it.
Or you don't even know who your agent is.
Or you don't even know who your agent is, and maybe you just straight up don't have one. All you have to do is call the Arbury Insurance office in Midland and say, hey, I'd like to speak with Micah, and I'm right there. If I don't answer right away, always leave a voicemail, please, because then it's hard to know what you need. But I'm willing to just even sit down and talk about what you have. There's been lots of cases recently with people coming in and they've been with the same insurance carrier for 15 years. Well, they've got really low deductibles compared to nowadays deductibles because they might have a $250 deductible on their home. Well, the moment you switch that, you're never going to find $250 deductible ever again. Maybe not even a $500 deductible because minimum deductibles now are $1,000 on your home. And same thing with auto. You have a $100 collision and $250 comp deductibles. You're not finding those again either.
But that's because things are a lot different now in the market than they were 10 years ago.
Yeah, any accident, anything that happens to you now is going to be 10 times more expensive than it was 20 years ago. And And so I'd say, just get to know your insurance agent, first of all, if you have one, and be willing to ask questions, because 99% of insurance agents are absolutely willing to take the time to go through and explain this. This is why we got certified in insurance, is because we want to know it. We have to know the state law as well. And so we are the best people to go to if you have questions.
Right. You're the professional. You're the expert.
Right. And just be willing to take the time to learn your insurance policy. It is the easiest way to save yourself a little bit of headache, or a lot of bit of headache.
Or a lot of
bit of headache. If anything does happen, just so that you are covered for what you need. And just be willing to learn it. Take the time.
Right. And you've done such a great job of that today, Micah, of helping us and myself, and like I said, hopefully everybody else, even understand the questions that we should be asking. So thank you so much for tuning in with us for another Modern Agent podcast. Micah, thank you so much for joining us and teaching us a lot about insurance.
Thanks for having me. This is it's my favorite thing to do. Just be able to sit down and teach.
And talk. I'm the same way about real estate. I tell people, I'm like, I can give you the 10-minute snippet, or we can talk about this all day. So we give you all the best, and I hope some people give you a call, because you've done a fabulous job.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Modern Agent Podcast. Please follow at Modern Realty Midland on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And if you need to buy or sell a house, please reach out to Modern Realty by going to www.modernrealty.us. Modern Realty, your home, our focus.